next year. One guy that might be able to help the Oklahoma Sooners, is that Jackson Arnold? Is he the guy for 2025? Let's discuss coming up next on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So Jackson Arnold had a much improved performance from the last time that we'd seen him, even better than South Carolina, but far better than what we saw against Tennessee. So it makes me wonder if he can continue to produce in a similar fashion. I'm not saying the numbers are going to be exactly the same, but if he takes care of the football the final 4 games of the year, gives Oklahoma a chance to score points, puts Oklahoma in a chance to be in these games, do you think he would have done enough for the Sooners to feel comfortable running it back in 2025 with Jackson?
I actually expect that. If Jackson Arnold finishes the season looking calm, cool, and collective, the offense looks like it's starting to hum, at least looks like it's not just, it looks like it actually has a sputter and hasn't stalled completely. I think that's what you end up doing is having Jackson Arnold going into 2025, but you do make it a true competition. So you're going to have competing dudes between Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins, Brendan Zurbrugg, Kevin Sperry. You're going to have all of them competing for the spot. And whomever does not win it at the end of the spring, you should go ahead and redshirt. And that way they can go through development, continue to be there just in case they decide they want to play, or if they decide they want to go ahead and transfer out after the season. But I think that you find a way to keep both quarterbacks, because we know that both love Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold always said he wants to be the quarterback at Oklahoma. Michael Hawkins Jr. is the legacy, and we know that him and his dad loves the idea of him being here, especially because his brother Malik will be here next season as well. So you're just adding a whole bunch of layers that makes it a little bit more complicated. But I do believe that Michael Hawkins and Jackson Arnold should be your quarterbacks in 2025 competing for it. And you just got to find a way to keep both of them. But you're right, John. Jackson Arnold has had a very up and down year, but this last game really kind of reignited the hope I had in him from jump. This is what I saw at Denton Guyer up until, he took 6 sacks in 2 possessions. But it felt like the guy that we saw as the Gatorade National Player of the Year and all of that. It's just unfortunate that he walked into this scenario. I'm just hoping he doesn't have the David Carr, Sam Bradford PTSDs from their NFL days of getting used to getting hit before they can hike the ball. The line should get better, especially with the young guys. We just need them to get out there and get some more snaps, make sure they understand the plays. But overall, I think we'll be fine going forward. I'm just praying that they don't make me look stupid.
Well, I think he's shown enough. When he's playing within the offense, he's shown enough that you want to continue to develop him, because he's shown off some big-time arm talent. He's shown off really good escapability. He's shown good poise under pressure. It's just a matter of now putting something around him that's actually functional offensively. They made the change in offensive coordinator, and things were a little bit more cohesive. There was a little bit better rhythm, and I expect it will continue to get better. You get some health at wide receiver. You develop some guys at wide receiver. That's going to make his job a whole lot easier. You find consistent offensive line play that allows you to run the ball consistently. That's going to make his job a whole lot easier as well. As much as we want to, elevate the Kylers, the Bakers, the Jalens, elite players, great all-timers, they had really good run games, really good offensive lines, and really good pass catchers that they were working with as well. I'm not sitting here trying to say that Jackson Arnold is anywhere near the same echelon that those guys are in. But those guys, they'll even tell you they had a great group of dudes around them that made their jobs easier. So that's not to say this takes everything off of Jackson Arnold's shoulders. He's got to continue to get better. He's got to continue to improve. He cannot just sit there and say, hey, my line's got to be better. And remember, it's the old remember the Titans conversation between Coach Boone and Petey. When Petey fumbles the ball and Coach Boone asks him, why'd you fumble my ball? And he said, my blockers were bad. And Coach Boone says, well, what does the blocking have to do with you fumbling my football? It's the same for Jackson Arnold. Take care of what you can take care of, control what you can control, take care of the football, make the plays that are there to make, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, it will. All you got to do is get them out there, let them compete, make sure that Jackson Arnold has the right plays to be comfortable with going forward, and we'll be fine. I think, John, the one thing I'm curious about is what do you expect to see going forward as far as the playbook? Can we rely on the staff of Joe John, Finley, and Kevin Johns to really leverage the check down, at least until the offensive line feels like it's more cohesive, and then we can start hitting more deep passes, or the running backs can block very well in like max protect? Are you confident in saying that we're probably going to see a lot more check downs going forward?
Maybe.
I know. See,
it's hard to
know. That's where I struggle too.
We've got one game with Joe John Finley as the play caller, one game with Jackson Arnold and Joe John Finley working together. I think they made some things simpler for Jackson Arnold. And that's what you have to do sometimes. I mean, go watch the NFL. Like, the best offensive coordinators are the ones that are making things simple for their quarterbacks, even the ones that have really good quarterbacks. Like, look at Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa. Like, he's a good quarterback, but Mike McDaniel makes everything super simple for him. Like, he creates simple completions that allow them to be efficient. You don't have to make everything super complicated and super difficult on your quarterback for your offense to be good. And I think that's what Seth Luttrell tried to do, is just tried to work everything down the field, made everything really, really complicated. And there was no check down game. There was nothing underneath that was happening very consistently. And I felt like you found some things underneath that made your offense work a little bit better. And you found a run game that actually functioned over the last couple of weeks. And that's huge, man. Listen, I love the passing offense. I love wide receiver play. Absolutely love it. But if you don't have a functional run game, it makes everything so much more difficult. And
it does.
And you don't even have to have an Adrian Peterson-like run game. You saw the first half with Javonte Barnes this past week. When the run game was cooking, the offense was moving. And so I expect that they'll continue to find some of that. I mean, watch LSU, dude. LSU, and we'll talk about it coming up next, but LSU absolutely struggled to contain Marcel Reed. You get to the end of the season, and Jackson Arnold's now got another few starts under his belt going into Baton Rouge. Like, they might have a hard time containing Jackson Arnold's running ability, because he's a really good runner as well. That's now, true. Oklahoma's offensive line, Texas A&M's offensive line, they're not in the same stratosphere either, but that creates an opportunity for you to get better. I like the way that they leveraged Jackson's running ability and gave him room to scramble. Like, he just played with a whole lot more confidence than what we saw against Tennessee.
Yeah, that's how you felt. You felt like he was just playing like he was playing in high school. Yeah. That's the Jackson Arnold I want going forward. If we can keep getting that version of him, I think I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied, at least for this season. Next year, I want him to step up his game, and I try to give grace to young players, especially, true sophomores who are kind of tossed out there without an offensive line. Again, I still feel like he reminds me of Drake May when he's at his best. And Drake May's true freshman year was a little rocky, but he was like, okay, I see the talent. I think Jackson still has that. I just don't want him to try to truck people anymore. Stop doing that little jackhammer offensive play run where he runs right up the middle, try to run over. No, Jackson Arnold's a dual threat. But put that man in space and let him go out there and cook some folks.
Yeah, I like the way that they ran the read option this past weekend. I think they'll continue to do that. But I also like the way that he just, it was the Steve Young moments, right? Mm-hmm. There was nothing available downfield, so you picked up 5, 8, 10, 12 yards scrambling. That's what made Steve Young so dangerous. It wasn't all the design quarterback runs. It was all the scramble runs that made him so good at what he did. And I think Jackson Arnold has the ability to really irritate and annoy defenses with his scrambling ability. So I'm excited to see how he continues to develop.
I agree with you there. And there's one thing that I did notice, though, on those read options. There were a few times he should have kept it. He probably would have got 12 yards or even scored a touchdown in one of those if he would have went ahead and kept it instead of handing it off. So that's stuff you learn. That's stuff that you're going to grow from, and I think he will.
Yep, he will. And I thought it already looked better than what it had previously in the season. The SEC is just bonkers this year. We're going to discuss what's gone down and what happened this past weekend in the SEC coming up next here on Locked On Sooner.